I have props, I don't know. Cool.
You can slides if you want to.
Oh, they have this fancy thing. Woo. Okay. All good recording or not? Okay. Hi, I'm Mangirdas. Observation-based product development using Flutter. Let's go. Introduction will be a little bit later in the next slides. This is not working. Oh, maybe it's working. Okay. So today, we'll discuss what the app observation is all about, and also get a little bit deeper into the specific categories of that. I won't get deeper into this at this moment. The part about me. I am a software engineer from your neighborhood. I'm currently working as a mobile tech lead at Billo, and at Billo I'm happily using Flutter every day, so I think I have something interesting to share with you all. Also Google Developer Expert for Flutter and Dart technologies and organizer at Flutter Lithuania. It's called Flutter Vilnius at the moment, just because of the naming purposes. And by any chance, if you know me from Flutter, I'm your go-to Flutter meme person. I created these. You have like 3 seconds to admire them. And app observation 101. So what this topic is all about, to me, app observation could be divided into 3 main parts. One of those is app performance, then it's the product performance and user experience. So for the app performance part, it's usually considered as a monitoring, basically, checking how your app is behaving from a technical point of view. We are talking about latency, we are talking about frozen frames, we are talking about request response times and other geeky metrics, I would say. Then there's a product performance, and usually these are considered only as analytics, but it's actually more than that. And product performance describes how your app or project is behaving as a business, as a product, whether it's whether people enjoy using that, whether it brings some benefits to the clients, to the users, and whether it's profitable or not. And also user experience part is like a software part, I would say. It's more like whether your users, what are the user feedback of your product and how you could get this feedback from them. Also, talking about app observation and why it's important, I think it's a thing that should be introduced as soon as possible into your products, just because it allows you to learn from your mistakes early on. We are talking about if you get unexpected errors happening in production. If the app observation is there, you'll see them, and then you can iterate on them and improve your product as a result. And I think, okay, maybe I'll use the keyboard. So basically this is the structure of today's talk. I'll get deeper into each specific category of app observation, so that's app behavior monitoring, user feedback, and product metrics, and then we'll get deeper into each specific component of that. So we could start from app behavior monitoring, and I would like to provide you with some numbers. So 42% of 1-star reviews on Google Play mention bugs, and even 84% of users abandon an application after seeing 2 crashes. Meaning, maybe you're building the next app in the market. Maybe it's also a problem that haven't been solved before. But as long as your product is not stable enough, as long as it's crashing, as long as it has some errors or unexpected, unhandled problems there, people will try, and they will definitely search for alternatives, more stable ones, and you'll lose some value as a business. And as a beginning of that, we can start from I would say, the obvious part in app behavior, because usually without thinking that much about it, we just use that in our apps. Logging, and I strongly believe that all logs matter, whether these are the local ones, whether these logs came from third-party dependencies, maybe some integration services, and so on. I mean, it's very important to see what's happening in your app, and logs is basically the first source where you go and see what's happening in what specific workflow. And then there's an additional question that may be asked about those, how much should I log? So my default answer to this is as much as you can pay for. If you're developing locally or you're developing open source, just log whatever is available at your hands. But when you get the decentralized logging or external logging, just be sane about that and log as much as you can pay for. And also, especially in the beginning, you have no idea how your app is behaving, how it's working, whether it's crashing or not, and other details. But later on, you could gradually reduce the noise of your logs, so you'll see some overlapping logs. Over there. Also, maybe it would make sense, to limit to a specific environment or limit to a specific log level and only see whatever is necessary. And also have in mind that logging is only a prerequisite in app monitoring. I mean, logs by definition or by their essence is just only single lines in text file, but in order to get value from them, you need to analyze them. You need maybe to use some other services that would help you to group those logs or see whatever is happening. And for this, at least in Billo, we are using Datadog. That's not sponsored. You can avoid this if you want to. Just because our backend services is using Datadog, it's really beneficial for us to also use this in our app, because we could see the whole workflow or the whole request that started, on mobile, how it propagated through our backend services and get back. So we see this whole workflow in a single place. Cool. How I implement logging in Flutter apps? Not many of you raise your hands, so maybe it's not relevant to everyone, but I think the code is quite straightforward. So what I like to do is create an abstract class, to define the specific log levels for our logger, then specify a single logger for the whole app, which is basically implemented by using static methods over there. And what I also like to do on top of that is use the composite design pattern, meaning I have a multi-logger, or the composite node that contains multiple loggers, and what it allows us is here you could see in the right-hand bottom corner that you could register multiple loggers if they are needed. So for instance, if you are developing locally, it's beneficial to see the console logger over there, to see the logs over there. And by using this flag in Flutter, at least this logger will be disabled in production. And also, since Dart is compiled it's a compiled language, this part of code will be tree shaken and not even shipped to production, which is also very important, to keep your bundle as small as possible. And also, you can register multiple loggers. Technically, with this solution, you can even enable and disable logs in production, like using Firebase remote config or any a feature flagging service. I haven't found a need for that, but technically, it's possible if you need that. And this is the example of the logs. So do I have this? No, I don't have that. I thought I had the pointer there. Anyway, so on the left you could see all the logs there, and on the right, as I mentioned, we're using Datadog for that. So when we log, we also provide much more information about the logs. So what's important for mobile developers, you could see the operating system that was used, the specific app version, the version of the operating system, and also it brings some more values about the user that used that. For instance, session ID, and then you could filter out all the logs by specific session, and you could see especially if there's an error or crash, you could see the whole session and the whole workflow that leads to that. The second part is actually, and I would say, an extension of logs, or extension logs is Crashlytics or crash and error reports. When building mobile apps, you should consider your apps as distributed systems, meaning once you ship your project or product and it's installed on user devices, it's not on your machine anymore, and you should be prepared, to see all the crashes, all the extra information coming from those devices and reach out to you. So for this purpose, again, we are using Datadog. You can avoid that if you want to, but there are other alternatives, maybe even more popular ones like Sentry, and also there is Firebase Crashlytics, which is free. So I see no reason why not to use that if you have nothing what's related to Crashlytics. As I mentioned, Crashlytics logs with benefits. So you get the same logs, but actually Crashlytics, that's why they are called Crashlytics. It's Crash plus analytics, right? So they provide you this analytics part, like, they could provide you with some information on what was the first app version when the specific error occurred, or what was the last app version when you see that happening. Also, you can group, you can maybe even mute specific errors if you see that they are coming from third-party service and you probably won't fix that, maybe. So you can mute that, not to bring that noise. And also have in mind when using Crashlytics, usually they provide dashboards, which is, I would say, active monitoring, meaning you need to look at those dashboards in order to get the information from them. But what's real beneficial about Crashlytics, and I think all of those services provides some notification mechanism, it's alerts. So on top of Crashlytics, you could set up alerts, and for instance, after releasing a new app version, if there is a new error that didn't occur, that never occurred, so you could see this and get an alert in Slack or email or whatnot, whatever is useful for you, and you can react to that quickly, and no need to have a dedicated monitor to see all the Crashlytics there. Again, implementation details. Just how Datadog is used in Flutter apps. So if you want to catch the errors coming from the Flutter layer, you should override Flutter error.onError callback. And if you need to track errors that are happening under the Flutter layer, meaning errors coming from the native layer, maybe from Android, iOS, or maybe just the communication errors that are happening, in this case, you need to override that platform dispatcher on error callback, and you'll get those errors in a single place, in this case in Datadog. And this is how these logs with benefits look like. So you have the same logs, you have the stacked reach, which is kind of default option when inspecting those. But also on the right side, you could see that there's only one route, unfortunately, the splash route, but you could see all the specific routes or all the specific pages where this error occurred. So you could investigate whether this error is specific to a single place of an app, or it's global. And also what Datadog provides additionally, it's real user monitoring. I think that's how it's called. It's RUM. So at the bottom you could see that the whole session is recorded, and there's even an action to replay the session, so you could see the whole workflow, the whole route tree, how the user approached 60 frames per second. So it's all about those numbers. Also, another thing that gets under this category is application performance monitoring, or APM. So that's the reason why we're using a single monitoring service for all of our backend services and also for our apps, just to have everything in a single place. And I will show you a little bit later what this APM means. And also have in mind, at least that's what I noticed while building a Flutter application, these app performance metrics are not 100% reliable still. For instance, we see some statistics or analytics that basically told us that the application launch time took 5 days or 6 days, which is, I don't think that's true, and I don't think user waited for that long, but sometimes you have those hiccups and you just need to filter them out. About implementation, again, that's example for Datadog, but I think in Flutter context, the implementation will be similar for other services. So on the top left corner, you could see the Datadog Navigator Observer. So basically, it tracks all the routing changes happening in the application, so that's useful. On the right-hand corner, you could see that there's a callback, or is not callback, that's a function, enable HTTP tracking. So what this function does, basically adds some extra headers to all the requests. So and these extra headers allows us to have this flame chart. That's the chart coming from APM, or application performance monitoring. So at the top you could see the life cycle of a request, of the request coming from our mobile. But also in APM, what's useful when you set everything properly, you could see all the different layers that were affected by single request. So on the right you could see a list of things that were participating in this request, like API layer. Maybe this API was calling some private APIs, so you could see those there. You could see whether the request hit the cache layer, which is also very important to backtrack if it's even used or not, and authentication services, other microservices, and so on. So this is a flame chart of a single request, and especially when you notice that your requests are degrading, and they're becoming slower, so it's really useful to have those in your hands, just investigate which specific part in your backend took the longest, and then, get deeper into that. Maybe that was something coming from mobile end, maybe something from backend. So that was about the first part, the first category. Now we'll get to the user feedback, which is, I would say, a softer part of this presentation. Technically, I'm Flutter and Google representative. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to quote Bill Gates, but he said that your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. So the thing is, and I think if you are publishing apps publicly, you notice that once everything works great and there are no problems, usually customers, users are happy, and they're usually silent. They are not providing that much of information. But once something or anything goes wrong, basically you'll definitely know this by getting 1-star reviews or getting messages on Trustpilot or whatnot. So have this in mind that when something goes wrong, you should focus on retrieving this information from the customer. So this part of presentation will be more or less about that. A lot of pictures, a lot of things that we're using at our company. In general, I think the first feedback loop that should start is your internal team. Especially, I'm talking about this default use case when you are not a unicorn developer, you are not the sole person responsible, for application, also for design, also for UX, also for getting the feedback and whatnot. If you are in this situation when you have a designer in your team and this designer brings some kind of UI to you, and by reviewing those inside the team, whether that's grooming meeting or maybe you're not using Agile, maybe that's just a coffee break and you're discussing designs. This is actually the first touch point when you can provide your feedback to your designer, because if you feel something about designs that it's not right and something feels wrong, and you are actually a technical person, right? So it will almost definitely, your users will feel the same way or even worse. Maybe those designs will be confusing to them and they will be challenging to use. So provide feedback, iterate on those designs until you feel comfortable, not implementing them, but just comfortable with UI. Whether the developers are comfortable by implementing all the UI, that's a different topic. But just discuss that inside the team. And also, when discussing with your team members or discussing with your users, avoid direct questions or ask for stories. So kind of good example would be, for instance, you're using Amazon to buy your next whatever table game, let's say, and then you're getting through all the Amazon, you're getting to the specific board game, you're accessing categories, then you're getting deeper into a specific category, maybe a specific category of board games, then you find this specific board game and you buy it. But if you ask your users, how this category search is for you, they would only give you feedback about this feature. But focus on stories. Ask your users, how was the last time you approached and tried to find for your product? Maybe 90% of them will say that we skipped this category search part and we used the search bar, we just type whatever we needed, and that was it. Meaning, by stories you could get a lot of more context and a better feeling of how this product is used by your users, and then you can iterate on them and improve what's most important. Also, I think that's at least that was the goal in our company, is automate the product loop, automated surveys for customers, maybe automated emails that are requesting for feedback, maybe even allowing to schedule meeting with you or not you, I don't know if all the developers really want that, but maybe to schedule meetings with your product managers or designers, to talk about your product in general, give feedback, automate it. There are a lot of services for that. In our case, we're using Intercom for automated service, and it's working. That part, and also testing in production. I don't know if you are really using that, but I think testing in production is important, and it could sound strange, but what I mean by this line is that especially if you're launching a new product, the beta testing is a must. I think just to test out your product in a smaller group of people, just getting a better feeling of how they are using your app, that's really crucial. But also, once you're releasing something new, at least what we do is always hide the feature under the feature flag, so you could enable or disable that on runtime, or also, ship the feature only to 40% of your users, getting the feedback first of all whether this new feature crashes anything or not, but also getting this feedback whether they increased the, maybe they hit the revenue goal, maybe your expectations were different. So just test in production, hide those on the feature flags, enable, disable, maybe do the A/B testing and whatnot, and this will help you get a better idea of this. That's an example by Intercom, what we're using. So it has a feature of showing you the automated surveys. It could be triggered, synchronously on a single button tab, but that could be triggered also asynchronously, after a specific request, or maybe on app launch, whatnot. Just there are use cases where you need that, so we are using Intercom. It helps us, and it's quite easy to set up. Case study about this user expectation part is I would like to introduce a little bit more about the importance of knowing your product and specific parts of that. Technically, that was the situation when I joined my company. At that moment, the app was written in React Native, and when I joined the company, we decided to rewrite the whole app in Flutter. And the app was crashing. It wasn't really working that well. It was quite okay, to get the things done, but nothing really more than that. So yeah. And also the app reviews visible on the screen, they were not that great, especially when new users try to find our app. And you could imagine the situation of CEO coming to the room, we need to get better app reviews. There's obvious solutions, maybe we should buy them, maybe we should, run ad campaigns, or offer some promo codes, for the users to leave better reviews. But the first question that was actually asked by our product manager was whether we are even asking our users to rate our app. And then when we get to this part, we are trying to realize how we should do that, in which specific place in the app, and when. Most of us are developers, and the solutioning is usually the easiest part for us. And usually there's a package for that. So in app review package, just add this dependency to your project, and it will trigger the native layer that will ask for app reviews. This is the example for Android, but also for iOS. It's that small modal that asks for app reviews. Nothing more than that. It helps us in this case. The more difficult part in our case was in which specific place in our app we need to show this, and also at which specific moment. So Billo is a e-commerce marketplace, and by saying marketplace, you could think of that both sides are getting something. So on the one side, we have clients that order videos from the users, and then users provide those videos, and also they get money back. So this app is only responsible for the creators or for the users part, to upload those videos. And it was kind of obvious to us that the highest moment, or the moment when they feel the happiest, is when they get paid. That's kind of obvious. You get money, you're happy. And we just tried that out. We just put the second modal at this moment. We are celebrating that the user is getting paid. And we're showing, at this moment, the modal, are you enjoying using our app? Because we decided it's the best moment, to show this. If the user presses yes, obviously, we provide this native modal, just rate our app, we're happy. If not, then we get to this part that I described a little bit earlier. So if not, this is the specific moment when your users are not happy about your app, and at this specific moment, there's a great chance to get this feedback from them. So you say that, okay, we feel sorry about that. Reach out to our customer service, and we can discuss what's wrong with our app, and maybe we can improve on that. And yeah, these are the results. You could see the specific moment when we released this feature, and you could see this blue line, how our app rating has increased since then. I think also, we get the positive ratings of 76%, which is okay-ish, I think. It's fine. So yeah, just by asking our users to leave the app reviews get us to this point, and I think the average rating is increasing at this moment, maybe. I hope so. What you should take away from this use case is that know the key moments of your app, so meaning know when your users are the most happy while using your product, when they are the least happy, and so on. And also, when there's a chance, always collect feedback, especially the negative one. Remember what Bill Gates suggested us, pull the developers are very proud of whatever they are building, and that's great. I mean, whether that's a complex algorithm, whatever you're doing at your job, that's amazing. But most of us are usually working for business. We need to, provide the benefits, and we, technically speaking, not technically, but simply speaking, we need to get money out of that. So, start optimizing your products for end users to bring the most benefit to them, and also they will probably bring the most to you as well. So how we could measure this stuff and how we could focus on that is, first of all, app metrics. And the good thing is that most of those come out of the box, meaning if you are publishing your app on Google Play Store or App Store, you already have some metrics like download counts, you have some retention rates, maybe if you have in-app payments, you see the you see the earnings over there. So these are already provided there, but once you need to optimize and maybe work a little bit on make your app a little bit more accessible to everyone, meaning when they type anything in the search bar, your app is the first one that pops up. So then we get to the point of ASO, or App Store Optimization, and if you're familiar with the term of search engine optimization, it's the same thing, just dedicated to apps. And I already told you about the importance of app ratings and app reviews. When it's the right time to ask for app ratings, do that. If users leave reviews on the App Store, unfortunately, in some cases they are public, and if it's something negative over there, always reply to them, or even leave your contacts over there for them to reach out to you and work on what's wrong and improve your product this way. This is the screen from, what's the product? AppFollow. Yeah, that's the one that we're using. And this is the keyword metrics that's visible over there. So for instance, after a specific release, you could add an extra keywords to your app description. I know if you are creating whatever workout app, you could add some keywords of workout, 30-day workout, and you could see it, whether these keywords lead to better search results or not. And yeah, just see the statistics over there, and this way you could a little bit push your app a little bit higher in the search results. Lastly, analytics, which is a crucial part about product metrics. Our PM always says this line that data beats opinions. In the beginning, especially if you're building a new product, basically everything that comes right out of your hands is based on the gut feeling, because you're just feeling that something will be, I don't know, nice to have or right to do. But once you implement analytics in your app, once you see whatever is happening in your app, then data beats opinions. You see the data in front of you, and you cannot really argue with that. Also, outcomes over output. So that's what's related to the quote. Focus on your users, focus whatever is needed for them. For instance, there are cases that not the most complex solution lead to the best results. In our case, I remember there was a use case when we changed the label in our app just for something to be more clear, and it generated, I think, 5% of revenue increase or something like that. It's huge. I mean, when you take the full business into account. Also, once you have all the analytics there in your app, you get the moment when you could feel the analysis paralysis. It's it's a situation when you are not doing any risky decisions unless you have some data on your hands. So at least in our company, we are trying to keep the healthy relationship between taking big risks or implementing features that are not really measured at the moment, and implementing something that is measured by the data and so on. So 80-20, the healthy correlation over there could be used in creating apps as well. For analytics, Google Analytics is if you're using Firebase, that's also free. But in our case, we're using Mixpanel just because we have direct app that is working on the web, and we are using the same service just to get, again, basically for the same reason why we're using the Datadog, just to get the whole flow from the app to the web app and so on. So Mixpanel is quite expensive, to be honest, but if you're a startup, you get one year free, and then you can decide if you can implement something smarter than that. How we implement analytics in our app, I will just go quite fast through those. Again, very similar to the logger. You implement the abstract class that you will need to handle any analytics event. Then you define the analytics, which basically registers a lot of different analytics that are visible on the bottom. And as an analytics sources or targets, we're using Facebook, Mixpanel, and Intercom. Yeah, that's where we're sending our analytics data. And then you define a lot of different analytics events, like logged out events, purchased events, registration, signups, logins, whatever you would need to track in your app. And then each specific handler, could either handle this event or not. So if your app, publishes, okay, the user has signed up, so it's up to you to decide whether Facebook should handle that, whether Mixpanel should handle that, whether Intercom should handle that, and so on. So that's how we handle those. Okay, this is an example from our code. Basically, you have natural flow of your sign up, and at a specific moment, you just send this event to your analytics wrapper, I would say, and you just log whatever has happened there. And then, if you have Mixpanel, you could bring some colors to your life, build those fancy dashboards. PMs and designers really like those, so we build them for them. And you could see the retention rates. You could see, if there's a case of sign up, you could see the referral sources. You can analyze them and do our magic. And the last case study for today is unsuccessful experiments. So that basically explains a little bit to the last part when I told you about using feature toggles and testing in production, but also how you could validate your ideas in production, and maybe for a smaller group of people. Again, you are discussing with CIO. For instance, Billo is, as I mentioned, video ad marketplace. So so we are having an app that is basically, by definition, we are a video company, and then CIO has this huge idea of us. We need in-app video upload at the moment. That's implemented, but maybe we need in-app video recording. And then imagine if we would have in-app video editing. That would be amazing. Maybe. Of course, designers, PMs jump on the hype train. They're excited about that, but then there's the developers part. That's me in this case, and I'm just questioning whether it's actually the best decision that should be made at this specific moment, and how we could validate this before implementing this huge video editing feature. The problem with that is, it's time consuming to begin with, and also time is money. It costs developers time and also money, literally. If you're a startup, you're burning money every single day. So, what is the MVP of your feature that could be validated? As I mentioned, in our app, we have video upload functionality already. So when the user joins our app, it uploads the video CV, which is basically video CV about him. He presents or he or she presents something about the user and whatever videos he or she could create. So for that, we are using Image Picker, which is again a plugin that we are using to upload those videos. And actually, when you check the documentation, we found that this plugin supports picking video not from gallery but from camera directly, which basically means in-app recording, right? So we said, okay, maybe we could start from there and implement this. And I implemented, since we are using the same package, I implemented this in 2 hours or 3 hours, something like that. The code is quite simple. You could see when the user is trying to upload something. We see the source that was selected, whether you should take something from the gallery or from the camera. And also, very important, you see the analytics event that basically sends what was used, which source was used in this case, and whether that's camera or gallery. And we have the results after getting 1,000 uploads. We could see that only 6% of our users use these camera features, and we decided that maybe in-app video editing is not the best feature that should be implemented at this specific moment. I think our target was 20%. If more than 20% of users would use the in-app recording, then we'll be considering implementing something more than that. Yeah, what you should bring out of this case study is that think big, always have big ideas, but always try to validate them first. Start small, try to find this specific MVP that could be implemented in a very short time, and also validate your ideas. Failed experiment doesn't mean a failure. Yeah, technically this experiment failed because not enough users has used this feature, but eventually maybe we saved like 2 months of development time implementing this in-app video editing. Who knows? It's not a failure. At least I'm not considering this a failure. And also, data beats opinions, but they take the results with a grain of salt, meaning maybe users didn't use the in-app recording, but maybe they would actually use the in-app video editing, right? So iterate again on those ideas, again, use the automated surveys, whatnot, validate this, continue iterating on those, and maybe one day we'll get to this point when we implement this. Yep, summary. App observation techniques should be implemented as soon as possible. That's my strong opinion on that. Also, automate the feedback loops and enable them. Allow your users to reach out to you directly. If not directly, at least, I don't know. It's better that these won't be like public forums or the moment when they give you the 1-star review and they provide you this feedback there. So just allow them to reach out to you somehow. And also outcome over output, work for your users and yeah, provide value to them. That's basically it from me. Thank you. If you have questions, this is the right time. If you have questions later, I'll be there for this whole evening and even a day after that. So thank you very much.